But let's make some investments that can help the folks in some of our poorest communities, in some of the worst working conditions, in some of the worst environmental conditions, have some success and some opportunity for the future for them and their families. So I hope you'll take those things into consideration, again, not just today, but on many other important issues that, frankly, I've not seen support on this floor for.
Mr. Hernandez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise today in very strong support and with strong pride as joint author and also as chair of the Labor and Employment Committee. To me, this bill is simple. It's about human dignity. I think it's shameful that in our nation's employment law that we denied two types of workers from the equal protection of labor protections, our national labor protections, domestic workers and farm workers. I am very sensitive and empathetic to small farm owners, family farm owners. And I have friends that are family farm owners. And I know for those of my friends that are family farm owners that they don't see their workers as second-class citizens. They see them as family. So I agree with that. I don't know if that's the case for every farm and every rancher, but in my experience, that has been the case. But I know something about my friends that are ranchers and farmers. I don't believe that they believe in unjust laws, and I don't believe that they agree with treating people or observing laws that are laws that say that one large swath of the country and of society will be under certain labor protections, and one small group, which, by the way, probably about 98, 99% are a protected class, treated differently, treated with lesser protections. We know that every worker deserves to be treated with dignity, with respect, especially by laws designed to protect workers from excessive hours in the workforce. I know that our author has taken an arduous process of taking input from everybody, supporters and opponents. And she's taken up a number of significant amendments to this piece of legislation. And she has delayed and delayed to really want to work with the opposition and to make this process of implementing this law as easy as possible. But we just can't wait any longer, folks. We can't wait any longer to implement, afford folks justice. One of my favorite quotes is been given to us, and we know, we're familiar with it. It comes from our civil rights champion, our social justice warrior. Justice delayed is justice denied. And so every argument to deny this equality has always been about economics, has always been about economics. And I respect the fact that economics is a consideration. It's a consideration for every household, for every community, and for the state. I get that. But you know what? That is a social responsibility that we all have to fix together. And if our farmers are not driving or directing the pricing, then we got to work something out with those that are purchasing. And if we as consumers, if we have to pay an extra 2-3% when we're dining out, or 2 or 3% when we're purchasing our groceries, then maybe it's worth it. It's worth it to me, and it's worth it to the people that I represent. And that's why I stand very proudly in asking folks, think about this, folks. This is basically a 14th Amendment violation. Now, some of you will say, wait a minute, this is about an industry. This is about an industry. This is not about harming a protected class. Well, when I walk around these fields, and I look around, and everybody around these fields look like my uncles and my aunts, and the workers' names are Spanish surnames, I can't help but to think, why is it that Latino workers, 99, 100%, the times that I visited our fields here in California, they're Latino workers. Why do they have to be treated differently? Why do the protections for them look different? In the formulation of our current day Constitution, we had to cut a deal, an economic deal, to classify certain workers in the South as being worth 2/3 of a human being.
30 seconds.
All right? That's a fact. This is part of the most shameful legacy of our country. We have been elected by our constituents, our diverse constituencies here in California, to make sure that we adhere to the current protections of the law, the current Bill of Rights and the law. California can continue to lead. Let's not be scared. Let's do the right thing, and let's fix these unintended consequences and this gun to the temple consequences that's being narrated to us. Let's fix that together. Folks, let's do the right thing for our California workers, all California workers, and let's let them enjoy equal protections under the law. Please vote aye.
Mr. Daly, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise in opposition of this bill, 2757, and I want to say, as a farmer, I respect every one of you. I've worked alongside you or my workers, and this is not directed this is not directed towards you. But I want to just set the record straight. This is not about a theoretical farmer. This is about my farm and the farm workers who work alongside me. This is about the workers that I no longer have because of regulations that come out of this building. 86 years ago, my grandfather, Norman Grant Daly, a veteran of World War I, homesteaded farmland in Siskiyou County during the Great Depression. Today, my children and I continue his legacy, farming in California. California has the most fertile soil and right climate. We grow more than 400 different commodities, 1/3 of the nation's fruits and vegetables and fruits and nuts. Agriculture is the #1 industry in this state. As a $54 billion industry, California has the safest and cheapest food supply, which is being killed by these regulations. Let me name off a few. The rise in workers' compensation, the rise in the minimum wage, electricity rates soaring, water quality and water board measurements are strict, fuel costs are high, AB 32, groundwater regulations, SB 88, strict EPA regulations on top of federal EPA regulations, harsh air quality control enforcement, AB 32. Family paid leave. The list goes on and on, members. These outrageous regulations and legal burdens, like this bill, raise the cost of production. Farmers in other states and in other countries don't have these obstacles. We cannot continue to hurt family farms in my district and in your districts. You hurt the poor developing countries that rely on shipments of commodities from us, pushing our biggest industry out of this state. For as long as there have been wage regulations, the law has treated farms differently because they are different. When crops are ready to harvest, they're ready to harvest. We need to harvest them before Mother Nature rains, hails, floods. It overripens or spoils it and it destroys them. You can't spread the work out to fit a convenient schedule and fit it in an 8-hour day. Believe me, I wished it could. California farmers used to fear Mother Nature, but members, today they fear this legislature. I'm insulted that I have been compared to a plantation owner. All of my life, I've worked alongside farm workers. They work hard to provide for their families and in no way are slaves. Today, my 2 sons and 1 full-time employee are my only employees. I want to hire more people, but I can't because of the constant assault on farmers. Members, I heard about education. I have a high school education. Do you want to know why? Because my family couldn't afford to send me to college. Because we owned land and I couldn't get a grant. Farming isn't just a job. It's a family tradition and a way of life. I love this great state and its land. But if I could pick my dirt up and leave, I would.
30 seconds, Mr. Daly.
My dream is to leave a flourishing farm to my children. You stand in the way of allowing my children to continue their great-grandfather's aspirations as fourth-generation farmers. Our family legacy is to put food on the table for those who need it. My children won't get this opportunity if this doesn't come to an end. This has to stop. I ask that you vote no on this bill, and I ask that you help when the regulations come up to help keep us in business. And so that we can hire more of these people that are sitting up in the balcony. I respectfully ask for a no vote.
Thank you for the debate, members. Mr. Speaker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This debate has been filled with lots of different views and lots of different ideas, and this room is filled with different experiences. I think we should all acknowledge that our different opinions emanate not only from our experiences, but also from our values. So the extent to which any sort of experiential aspects of one's life predetermines their position on this bill, I think can pretty much be laid on the table. We have different values, regardless of what experiences we have. Apparently, we have different Bibles, too. A lot of different Bibles here. Should have brought mine. And the economics, let's face it, the economics are pretty speculative, too. I mean, we're all in politics. We all run campaigns. You hire your economist, I hire mine, and we end up with the results that we want. For me, this isn't about that. For me, this is about values. And for me, this is about the opportunity to right a wrong. Whether we work in manufacturing or retail, when we work over 40 hours, when we work over 8 hours a day, we are eligible for overtime. We know that. That's what we know as a state. I talked earlier this year on the minimum wage, and I talked about the extent to which we need to make sure that we adhere to our social contract. Our entire system of governance is based on a social contract. We give something in exchange for something else. In our society, in our state, we give work. We give the value of our work, the value of our time, in exchange so that we can live a life of dignity, so that we can be able to send our children to school, so that we can pay our rent, so we can live the type of life with the sense of dignity that we all want. That's all we ask for. This is, for me, an opportunity to do nothing other than to right a wrong that was created in the 1930s. Bad at math. 80 years ago. We don't change a system over the course of 80 years. We don't make adjustments over the course of 80 years. We know that so many of us took the time to meet with the opponents of this bill. I am naturally predisposed to be sympathetic toward this bill. When I first heard about this bill, I was inclined to be supportive of it. But I took the time. I took 7, 8, 9 meetings in the past 2 weeks, talked to hundreds of people about this bill. Hundreds of opponents came to my office to talk about this bill. I'm still waiting for one single justifiable reason why we should not pass AB 2757. Maybe if I took another dozen meetings, I would have one person tell me why we shouldn't update a system that was created 80 years ago. This is about righting a wrong. That's what this bill is about. I ask for your support of AB 2757.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All debate having ceased, that will be Ms. Gonzalez's close. With that, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Ms. Gonzalez, what's your pleasure? All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Ms. Gonzalez moves the call. Members, we are moving back in the file. To file item 78 by Mr. Tang. That's AB 2428. File item 78. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2428 by Assemblymember Ting, an act relating to state highways.
Mr. Ting, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 2428 is a district bill. It allows the city and county of San Francisco to lease Caltrans property at 10% of market rate in order to create more open space and park space. Coming out of Assembly Appropriations, this bill was limited to only 10 parcels in the city and county of San Francisco. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Ting. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 Clerk will close the roll. Tie the vote. Ayes 42, noes 22. Measure passes. Members, we're moving to file item 108. That's AB 1677 by Mr. Tang. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1677 by Assemblymember Ting and others enacted into vehicles.
Mr. Ting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 1677 helps increase tour bus safety in the state of California. Currently, on the road today, only about 30% of tour buses are inspected every year. This allows local jurisdictions, if they so choose, to contract with the California Highway Patrol in order to increase the number of inspections. The California Highway Patrol is currently in charge of inspections, but because of fiscal issues, they can only do about 30% of tour buses. There are numerous tour bus incidents in my city, but every city should be worried that they have tour buses driving through their neighborhoods, increasing fatalities as well as increasing incidents. This allows local jurisdictions the opportunity, and again, the opportunity, not the mandate, but the opportunity to contract with CHP to increase the number of tour bus inspections for their city. Respectfully ask for a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Ting. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 44, noes 23. The measure passes. Without objection, we will move to file item 83. That's AB 2467. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2467 by Assemblymember Gomez enacted into health facilities.
Mr. Gomez.
Members, I got a good one for you. I have Assembly Bill 2467, which would strengthen transparency among hospitals in California by requiring public disclosure of executive compensation and ensure pay equity for all frontline health workers. This measure would require all California hospitals to provide consistent annual reporting through the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development, OSHPD, related to the total annual compensation for all hospital executives earning more than $300,000 per year. AB 2467 would also require a breakdown relative compensation by self-reported race, ethnicity, gender, and voluntary self-reported sexual orientation and gender identity to evaluate pay equity across race, ethnicity, and gender. In order to assess what taxpayers are getting in community benefits or what purchasers are getting in terms of value from hospitals, we need more information. This bill is a small step towards obtaining this information. Currently, the state doesn't have enough data to know how much CEO salaries contribute to spiraling healthcare costs and where nonprofit CEO pay is excessive, or how to assess potential value or lack thereof of different CEO pay arrangements. Hospitals are the largest healthcare expense category, regardless of payer, Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. So there is a compelling public interest insofar as hospitals are a driver of overall healthcare costs. This bill is supported by the California Labor Federation, Equality California, and numerous organizations. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Seeing no discussion or debate on the bill, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. No applause on the floor. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Mr. Gomez, what's your pleasure? Mr. Gomez is asking that we leave the roll open. Mr. Gomez. Mr. Gomez, what's your pleasure? Mr. Gomez moves a call. File item 84 is AB 2480. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2480 by Assemblymember Bloom, an act relating to water.
Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 2480 declares that it is the policy of the state that the watershed areas that supply California's water system are an integral part of the system and are eligible for financing on the same basis as other water collection and treatment infrastructure. It's indisputable that areas that gather, filter, and convey water to our reservoirs are essential parts of the water system and must be maintained in functional condition, and this bill brings state policy into clearer alignment with federal statutes that are more explicit in recognizing that watersheds are in fact infrastructure and are eligible for the same types of financing for maintenance operations. Amendments and appropriations simplified the bill and removed all costs to the state. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Bloom. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who 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 desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote.